I'm Shauna Lee. This is Infinity Readings, and this will be a chat about psionics part 2. We're talking about signs and symptoms. This will be the last in this grouping of energy reports that I have from here forward. Basically, information they want me to get out so that you guys can reference this in the future. Now, I'm going to start with the symptoms of psionic increase, an energy increase that you have with you. You will go through a certain pattern of behavior that will come upon you here as you increase in vibration. Again, this will be of your own free will. So if you are into this stuff, you will find this happening. If you're not, it may not resonate with you. So I'll get into things. The first thing I want to mention is that throughout this process, there will be, you'll have to have an awareness of what your environment is doing, because it can have certain effects on you. And what I mean by that is literally the barometric pressure on the earth. These can create energy fluxes in you, no less. So it's a good way to monitor what's going on. Schumann resonance, all that stuff is kind of a sideline of this, but the barometric pressure is what I find impedes me the most. And that can be weather fronts coming in and taking your energy away. It can be, again, a higher low pressure system that can increase or decrease your ability to be happy or whatnot. So I want you to be aware of that and look into that and study that to see if that makes sense to you and how you are feeling, because there are fluxes in the numbers here, and basically we're talking about air pressure upon the earth, and there's high pressure systems, low pressure systems when you're talking about weather, and there's a normal range. Now I'm trying to find the normal range. It's just it may be different for different altitudes on the earth. Like if you're in the mountainous area, the pressure's gonna affect you differently because you'll be customized to that, or how would you say, accustomed to certain air qualities, air effects upon the body. So altitude has something to do with that. So if you're on a flat land and you got a certain pressure, it may not be or affect you in the same way as someone who's living in a mountainous area or has been doing that for a certain amount of time. So I just want to make you aware of that and give you a heads up. Go look in those areas and you will find there can be correlations with your energy, highs and lows, having to do with that specifically. Schumann resonance is another place to go. Moon and its effects. These are all things that you should be already looking into naturally to see if it correlates with you in some kind of level. And if not, I would urge you to do that and see if you can find some cycles or correlations there that make sense. And if you're having problems, again, always go see a doctor first. And then if they can't find anything, then you go on with this information after that fact. So, yeah, like there's MBs, which is millibars, and HG, which is inches of mercury. So there's different standards to measure these things by. But here in Canada, where I'm from, we go with the millibars, and they're up in the thousands. Like they say, the average would be anywhere from 1,013, millibars to 1,011 millibars, like in that range from 1,011 to 1,019. That's about average, normal. A high would be up 1,020, and a low would be below 1,000, and these would be areas where you would have storm fronts coming in, this kind of stuff. So that will affect you on those levels. And then when you get into these low pressure systems, right? You have headaches, you can have sinus pain, cranial pressure, nausea, dizziness, fatigue. Your sinuses are going to be all mixed up, joint pain, brain fog, shortness of breath. Okay, so they can affect you in these kinds of ways. So that's its own entity. That's reality. That's things that happen that you should look into and see if you're not correlating with that by itself. And then above and beyond here, what I'm going to get to, I wrote these down so I don't forget or leave stuff out. Basically, what I found again, I started this process in 2012, 2013. Really being introduced, and don't ask me, the confidence goes back and forth in between the energies of trying to pull me out of lower frequencies into higher. But nonetheless, the frequency is given, whether I agree to it or not, essentially, because essentially it's for your highest good to go along with this flow, right? And I'm learning this as I go. I have points in time where I refuse, and then other points where I'm humbled because it's like, yeah, we were right. You know, the undercurrent was right. I took off in a fit of not understanding certain things. And then I end up with my tail between my legs going back and saying, okay, yeah, you were right. Because I didn't believe something that was given to me intuitively or whatnot. But as time goes on, you learn to trust these things. And again, you may also have to learn how to get rid of the dark energy that's been infiltrating as well. And you will be given all the tools as you go. You need nothing to prepare other than to be open and discerning and allow yourself to go in a free will way to ascend. Okay. So, along the time since 2012 to present day, 2025, we're talking about bumping up in frequency. And when you have a bump up in frequency, whether you are someone who meditates and connects to the entities or no, these things will start to happen, or you can notice them happening. Okay. And basically there's a bulk of stuff that happens. And when you go through all the steps, then usually the process starts all over again. And you know you're going through these bump ups, if you will, in energy and frequency, because the same things happen over and over again. So I'm going to attempt to explain this process, and it's going to be short and sweet to the point, and that's that. And hopefully, you know, this will be taken in to a degree where it helps you understand things so you're not in fear, and also make sense of things that maybe you don't understand. Okay, so the first thing that happens usually when you're going through a frequency shift, okay, DNA upgrade, whatever you want to word it there, there's a lot of internal stuff that starts changing. Energy is sent to you. It would be, in essence, like a Reiki session to the max, right? Cranked on maximum. Yeah, you get energy sent to you, and because of that energy that fills up your soul, your physical self, you become overwhelmed with the energy and the collision that it makes within the body system. It creates an energy drain. So what you will find is you will have an energy low where you need to get rest, take your fluids, take care of yourself, but overall, if you're feeling tired, sleep. Don't try and push through it to a high degree. And if it is within universal flow, they really will try and adapt your surroundings to meet that. Meaning, they know what's going on in your life. They know what's going on in your world. And if you have a weekend where maybe on Wednesday you thought, yeah, I'm going to go out with the buddies and I'm going to party and we're going to get together and go camping, whatever. And then the weekend comes and you have a high energy drain. Okay. It is your choice to go and do that and deplete. But you can also make the decision to take care of the self and say, man, I'm not feeling good right now, but I'll go out with you later. But I'm feeling sick. And it may not be a sickness per se, but you're just so drained that you can't pull yourself out of bed. It's that kind. And If you're dealing with a barometric pressure problem, you will find that happen within a half an hour, up to, or you can find it on a slower drain, but you will find within like a 4 hour period, you can go from being high energy to like low. That more than likely what I've found is an energy front coming in. And again, it's why you should be aware of these things because you can get them all mixed up, right? So, if it is a energy drain from above, it can also hit you in the same way, but it will be to a degree where you really can't. You can't drag your ass off the couch. You can't. It's in that way. It's like, no, I just feel like, but you're not sick per se, but you just feel low vibe. And it's almost like that feeling just before you get sick, where you physically start feeling the nausea. It's just before that because they really, that's the energy being sent in, and your body system is using all it can to adapt that new energy. So it drains you right down, forces you to rest. And if you push through that, it's not going to be good. You could possibly end up with nausea if you don't get your right fluids. Because I find if fluids is the first thing, rest is the second. So if you're going to push through it, you get your fluids and then you try and rest as much as you can. Just put a little more effort into your self-care than you do whatever you have to accomplish there. Or call in sick. I mean, this is, again, you'll feel it to that degree. So that's the first. I had to start somewhere. There's a big circle of stuff, and I'm like, okay, I'll start with the energy drain because that's where, and then we put it in a linear fashion because a lot of these levels can slip in betwixt, but mostly this is how it goes. So you get that energy drain. That's when the energy itself is coming into you and upgrading. So you got to take, and depending on your own frequency that you carry, it'll take anywhere from a day, 4 hours. It could be literally 4 to 6 hours, I think would be about if you were of high frequency already, 4 to 6 hours would be where it would sit, where you'd have a drain, you needed a nap, and then kind of drag out of that. And then after your 7th, 8th hour, you're starting to come back already. For those of that are on the lower levels trying to bump up, you could have up to 3 days of dragged out feeling. And again, it's the adaptation of the physical and the cells, everything's upgrading. So while that happens, right, this is what's going on. So after you have that period, again, from anywhere from 6 hours to 3 days, you will have an energy return, which means after you get your rest and you take care of yourself, you drink your fluids. Because if you don't drink your fluids and you're dehydrated, you will get nausea. You will get almost like a flu-like sickness. You will get this. But if you have your fluids, and the fluids help, if you have nothing, like no vitamins or nutrients, the fluids will at least help you overcome any kind of negative ramifications in that way in the physical body. So after you get through that, okay, your energy will return. So what it means is that energy that has been infused in you will start to bubble up and find its place, right? Because like Reiki, it just has to balance out in the body, and it needs to regulate and whatnot. So that's after this time has happened. Again, anywhere from 6 hours to 3 days. You will have time and space problems. What do I mean by that? I mean, you will notice that time either really speeds up in essence or really slows down for you, or both. You will have both. I've had a lot of both. Like sometimes, one day it'll speed up, or within a day you'll have, your morning will go real fast. Like, whoa, it's noon already? Like, what the hell happened? And then your afternoon will drag. You can have that within a day, within different days, whatever. It can be different things happening. It just depends on how your body accepts that. But these are things that you can notice. Time expanding where you feel like, holy, I got all the time in the world to do stuff today. I didn't know it, Or you can find it going the other way where it's like, whoa, things are speeding up. But it'll be little bursts of it. It won't be like over a week. It'll just be a little burst in the morning or a little burst during that day. And then you kind of go in and out of frequencies. Again, this is an adjustment period for your energy system. Now, I said time, and now I'm talking about space problems. Now, these are the funny things because I've actually sat and laughed so hard. Okay, so how many times you go through the doorway to go to the bathroom? How many times you go through the doorway to get into your room? How many times you go through the entryway to get into the kitchen? You always judge it correctly, correct? Well, you're going to have problems with spatial reasoning within your mind. And it's not like you're going to foresee it either. And what I mean by is you will start literally bumping into things. You'll try to grab things and you will not be able to grab them. You may have to take 3, 4, 6, 7 times to grab things. You may even give up on grabbing metal. I find metal is the hardest. I'm past a point where I have problems with metal. It's different things. Now it's like paper objects. So I don't know what the deal is with, because it's like other objects, like things that are thinner and like wood, organic maybe. I don't know. I had no problems with before. It was the metal I had problems. I couldn't. And your brain is going to tell you to do certain things that are just going to kind of seem crazy. Meaning, okay, I had a problem with metal. Okay, I kept bumping into walls. These are made out of wood mostly, I guess, and cardboard and whatnot. But nonetheless, you go through a bathroom how many times and you make it right down the center. But when you are given a good heavy upgrade, and again, I don't know at this time that the upgrades are going to be hugely as vast as I've went through, but for some people they will, and you will misjudge. And it's not like you just skim your arm against the doorway. It'll be your whole side of your face will come off because you're thinking the doorway is like a foot to the left. That's what I'm talking about. It'll be so outrageous that you'll go like, how the hell? How did I not see that? I mean, okay, if you're a clumsy person, you might be used to this, but this is beyond that. I'm not a clumsy person in that way. Like, I can trip on things when they're in the way, but for the most part, I get through doorways and I get through. My vision's okay. But when you have a frequency increase, you're going to bump into things like that. Doorways, you're going to misjudge them because your time and space is changing. Okay, that's the bottom line. And it will be to an obscene degree. You just, like I said, you're not going to just bump your elbow through the doorway. It's going to be the whole left side of your body. And you're going to go like, whoa, how did I misjudge that so far? This is why. Because your frequency is changing. And in essence, different dimensional, right? So when you go into a different dimension, you talk about ghosts and whatever, being, oh, they're always floating off the floor about a foot. It's like they're not touching the floor. This is what we're talking about. They're in a different dimension. And now you're going to be joining them. So that's another hint. You may be seeing more things in a different dimension that you're moving into. So be aware of that. I mean, I didn't have, and I can tell you too as well, you can go in there and ask your guides, because you're surrounded by a group of 5 or more, probably, of people that will say, or people, of entities that will say, if you say to them, please don't show me these things if I can't handle it. You will get introduced to them if it's part of your zone. If it's part of your, your destiny or whatever to deal with this stuff, you will be given the keys to this. Or at least be co-working with them to slowly introduce that ability in. Now, if you don't want to see them, ask your guides, pray to a higher where, please, I don't want to see this stuff. Because that's what I did. And it saved me a lot of hassle. Even though I can sense it in my gut, I still have other senses I can sense them on. But I said, just don't give me the visual. I just don't want to see it. But there are third eye visuals. There's visual eye visuals. I know there's certain people that they see it. It's physical in there, just like they're talking to me, talking to you, someone in the room. They can't tell the difference between someone's dead and someone's here. And there are a lot of kids that are going to be in this way as well, youth. They're going to say someone there and there's nobody there. And it's because they're seeing through the dimensional frequencies. They're of a higher frequency to do that, to key into that. So, yeah. So, okay. going in a little far there, but that's what it is. Time and space. Time will speed up, slow down. Space changes. Again, you will bump into physical objects. Beware of metallic objects. I feel like, I don't know if that's just a me thing, but the first frequency increases I went through metallic, like trying to pick up silverware, I couldn't do it. I'd take like 6 or 7 shakes at it before I could literally, I just slow myself right down because it was like I was almost going through the metal. And I was looking at it. I was looking at my hands, going to the fork to try and pick it up, and it literally, I'm just not getting nothing. I can't grip it, whatever. And then I'm like, I should have picked it up. Like my mind's going, I should have picked it up by now. Usually by the second or third try, you get it. 7 try, that's excessive. Again, it's going to be blatantly obvious something's off here, and this is what it is. It's your frequency increasing, and sometimes it maybe metal's slower. I don't know a lot about physics and all that stuff. I don't know if metal's slower to, or if it's just more dense, and that's something that for whatever reason I was moving in it, whatever the deal is there. Again, there's a lot of stuff I don't waste my energy going there. It's like, that's the way it is. That's whatever. I'll deal with it. So, physical objects you're going to have. So, the energy return when you're getting it, that's what's going to happen. You're going to have spatial problems, dealing with physical objects. This kind of stuff is going to be a little warped. Then, after a certain amount of time of going through that, you'll find that you can pick up your silverware again. You're not bumping into walls. I was going to tell you a story about, because I said your brain can go in places that kind of make you seem crazy. One of the things that had happened, again, metal objects, right? It was in the summer. I was walking and I bumped, again, like I can judge. There was nothing wrong with my vision. But I bumped into a big floor fan I had on. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Because this wasn't probably a day later that I bumped into the wall. And I hit, like, from my breast sideways. Like, that's a good 1.5 feet into the doorway. And then the next day it was the fan. And again, a good 1.5 feet. This is like a 24, 36-inch fan. Like, it's huge. And I bumped into half of it and spun it around. And my brain said, you should be able to walk through that. And I was like, not in this dimension yet. I was like, really? And then I kind of, my leg, because I heard, right, it was intuitive. It was from a different place than my guides, frankly, but put my foot on that fan again. I'm like, no, we're not going through it. It's still blocking us. So I left it at that. I don't question things. Sometimes I just like move on. So yeah, that's where your mind will go. And again, this is because in the future, maybe we will be allowed to go through things in a physical form, some kind of way, blah, 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 depending on how far you go with that. So anyway, now, when you get past that point of physical and spatial and, time distortions, you will notice your abilities start to sharpen. You will notice your 5 senses will become enlightened. And you may go through a period where you don't notice it at all. If you're kind of like a recluse and you go home and you don't do much or around people, where you're going to notice this the most is with people, interacting with people, because you're going to get high sensory. And when you're by yourself, there's nothing for your abilities to do but sit with yourself. Not that you can't be seen on certain levels, right? But to a higher degree, you utilize. It's like you become a writer. If you don't write a book, you're not going to, you know what I mean? You're not going to do anything. So it's not going to come out, your abilities. So some of the things that can happen, you can have vision distortions. So you could have blurrier vision for a certain period of time. And again, that's individual. And again, I'm not a doctor. Go see a doctor first. If they can't find anything, then this may be what's going on. Distortions and refinement of those abilities. So your vision, you may have bad vision and it's starting to sharpen a little bit. Maybe you don't have to go to the plus 25. You can go to like with no glasses or whatever, right? Your abilities, those will start to shift. And again, it's not like it shifts and stays. It's like a muscle. It will be worked in and out of things. So you'll have it go back and then be sharper and come forward, this kind of stuff. It's forever moving and adapting. So you may find vision, refinement, or distortion. Perceptions will change. Epiphany is problem solving. You will find you will solve problems a lot quicker than you used to. It's like, whoa, how did I deal with this in the past? I couldn't see, it's like a cloud's lifted out of you. That clarity of mind comes in. And then there's the attention to your health. So if you may have in the past, maybe, you were doing something, again, not taking care of the self to a certain degree, your attention to detail will come up here and will point you in that direction. Okay, our health, we got to pay attention. Maybe you'll be eating better. Maybe you'll be paying attention to what you put in your body instead of how much and all this stuff, right? These kinds of things, you will notice alterations happening in this area. And if you eat well, then maybe you don't notice it in that area so much. But that will come to the forefront as well. So your abilities, you'll start to notice differences here. Then after that point, and again, they will give you opportunities to express those, or to whether we take them or not is a different story. But they will give you examples of trying to open. But again, if we recluse, right? If we're social and if we're just living life like normal, we will have exposure to some of these things opening and closing depending. But if we are more of a reclusive, like pulling away from society and being alone, and that will diminish the amount they can show you in your physical world, because you have to be out and amongst people and even nature, not necessarily people, but outside of the, being caged is what I get. So there's a need to express that for some people who may feel fear and recluse. It's like, no, go out and push against that and you will see more results there. Then so once you notice those perception changes and whatnot on certain levels, and some of it might be quite subtle. And again, if you're not out and about, you may not notice it at all. But the next level is the incoming. This will be the information coming from your universal flow. And again, this will be with people going outward, reaching outside of themselves, you will find. And this can even come through media. Unfortunately, that which I tell you to stay away from will also be the same engineered mechanics that brings it into you. So you could be on social media and you could have stuff coming into your field to explain and to open your point of view, to make you understand. And I mean, where more than the internet, right? Because you could search anything in essence, you can be driven to do that, or it can come at you through your, all these, what they call signatures that they give you on YouTube, on social media, things that come at you. They can get into there and they will put things that you go, wow, I've never had stuff like this on my feed before. Guess what? This is that information getting through to you. And if you do have a center core of something you want to work on, man, this stuff's going to be sent at you in 3D. 4D, 5D. So anyway, incoming information. This is what happens after a period of noticing that things are a little different. I'm looking at things differently. I'm understanding. I've got more compassion. These are things that happen. So again, channels from your surrounding. Could be books, could be visuals in your physical environment. Anything from a road sign speaking to you, like, you needed to hear something. It's going to be pertinent to you. It's not just going to be something that doesn't matter. It's going to stick out, like, pay attention to this. Your instinct's going to go, look at that a little longer. What does that mean to you? Inspect that. Audio, video, in the media, again, things, you got to be careful there. But through the media, it can come out to you. It could bring you things and information. That's what I'm having a huge amalgamation of that coming at me at this time. Stuff coming from my feed that doesn't normally come from my feed. But at the same time, there's a lot of stuff going on in the background, but at the same time, you use your instinct and go, yeah, that's garbage. Oh, that that I could look into. That interests me. And again, you got to go with your inner core of where your curiosity goes. Because as subtle as a decision can be, it can be very profound from, receiving energy from the above kind of thing. And then again, intuitive messages will increase, and keeping your peace and your grace is the highest concern here. We need to learn how to keep the body, mind, and spirit at peace and hold our grace and move forward in that power. Your intuitive messages will increase to a degree. And again, when you follow them, you will go in the right direction. If you get off those rails of your peace and your grace, then things can go at 90-degree angles real quick. So you want to be able to make that your baseline is your peace and your grace. If you cannot do that, you have to work harder to gain that for yourself, and that's part of taking care of the self. Okay, so incoming information, this comes after the notice of abilities increasing, like things are changing. Then you get the information to support that. You get the information to support your gut if you're on the right track, or if you're not, it will let you know. And the emotional purging is what comes next. So this is the hard part. This is what everybody, I think, on the 3D Earth, I know I had a hard time with it all through my youth. Emotions, I always felt them so deeply, so strongly, so I felt like I just cried my youth away. And it was like, why was I crying? I don't know. But again, depression, right? So if you're coming to the emotional purging, I feel like that's kind of the end of the phase where we start to get back to normal, our new normal. It's going to be a step above where we were at. And the emotional purging, if you cannot get through this or work through, that's your homework. That's, you sit in class, you do what you do. That's all the stuff I just mentioned, going through the energy low, the energy return, where you suddenly feel, things are changing, I'm bumping into walls, da da da. Then you notice your abilities heightening, even your mood cycles could be a little bit better than normal, da da da. Clarity of mind, focusing maybe more on self-worth. Then you get the incoming information that supports what you're going through, may even answer questions you have about what's going on, may pull you in directions you need to understand. So be open to all that information coming in. Then comes the emotional purging. That's the last point. Now, this is where, if we feel we've done our emotional work and we've healed from past relationships, past, even past life trauma, there's things that we can carry into this life in order to work through things. This is where the self-work comes in, because you are going to feel. You cannot avoid that. I mean, you could try to avoid that. It will come down to emotional breakdowns in the physical. Not being able to deal with anger, sadness, bitterness, all of these negative emotions, they're just erupting in you, and they're building up to a high degree where we can't make sense of anything. So in essence, that would be an explosion of emotion, and then we would take that outward in a negative way. So in order to avoid all of this, we have to go back and what are we dealing with? We feel like we want to cry, mother effer, cry. This is what you need to do. And if you're one that just, and again, men are labeled with this, like you can't cry as a man. No, you cry. Because if you don't cry, you're going to end up going out murdering people or doing bad things that your soul can't come back from. And I'm not being light on that. I'm telling you, the God's honest. Like, you got to go and deal with your base emotions. If you've been hurt by whatever in your past and you're taking it out on every other person, you got some healing to do. And this is the problem with what's going on today. We're taking things out in our outer world and not realizing that energy is going to come right back on us real quick. The karma here, especially when so if you're someone who is in the ascension way, which is going to be anybody who's got their feet on this earth, if you fight it, it is going to smack you in the face until you see what's going on. And the more you fight it, the more you get that energy that you need to heal. And if you can't look back at the self and realign the self, you will just keep getting smacked in the face with the same stuff you're made of. So you gotta change that baseline. And some people just not gonna get it. They're not meant to, and maybe they're meant to, but not within the timing they think, right? Again, it's all about the emotional healing. When we have that baseline of emotional healing, that's how we get to our peace and our grace. And we can't get to it without it. Without it, we can't get to it. So if you're the strong man or the strong woman that's the head of the household that can't break down, you're going to have problems. And you need to feel. And if you need to go to a retreat for 3 days out in the bush just so you could emotionally purge, then do so. You need to take time for your center to, because again, it just comes out in devastating ways, and it's uncontrollable, and it blocks you from seeing what's right and wrong, and then you just react, and you have no, what's the word, there's no responsibility there. So they want you to just feel the emotions and whatnot. Again, if you follow my channel, not many the numbers aren't there, but if you follow what I've been saying all along, that's the basis of everything, is to emotionally heal. You will have emotional purging, and that will happen throughout. It can peek his way into any part of this process. So you can have emotional purging feelings when your energy's low. You can have it when your time and space is distorted. You can have it when you start to notice your abilities. You could find that you're noticing that you're more compassionate and feeling energy there, and allow yourself to feel it. Allow yourself to feel it. The greatest sin of going forward is not feeling. Blocking the feelings, that's the worst thing you can do. Because that's where, again, I have to say it this way, the devil gets in there. Because he loves those people that just shut that fucker off. Because they can go forward and they can do anything, and they don't think about the consequences of their actions till it's too late. And he loves that. He loves sitting looking at you in jail and going, how do you feel now? You feel worthless. And I'm trying to save you from getting to that point. So anyway, the emotional purging can come at any level. Emotions purging, that's what you will feel, an overwhelmment of emotional energy. Allow it to go through the physical, mental, emotional processes to purge it outward. Lessons from the past can also show up to confront you again. And this is really, again, what I talk about is like, do you want an F in this or do you want an A+? And some people, they're like, I don't know, I'm at about a C-. Well, you may get that lesson again, but you only go halfway as far as you did before in order to understand it's not the door I should be walking through. And again, you will get it until you get it. You will get it until you get that A+, or, B+, and A. The more, like, the one good thing about repeating a lesson is that when you're done with a second run through, you will not do it again. And some people that don't respond to that, again, there's problems there on the emotional side. They've not purged. That's what that means, is because when we block and stuff our emotions, and we don't allow ourselves to feel, then we don't allow ourselves to process those emotions properly, and therefore it's very easy to jump back into something with the same temperament. Only we'll be twice as frustrated. And if we don't allow the frustration through, then again, you see the cycle here. It just adds up, but not as a good on our side. You gotta turn that mirror on yourself and look. Now, compassion for others and self will increase at this time. And again, self-work is always a plus here. The more we self-work, more we learn to fix those things in ourselves that is attracting, these lessons outside of us. I think we learn lessons till we die. I think we learn till we die. And again, there's some lessons we don't, we brush off, and we can go quite a ways without learning them. But with the energy flow that comes in, it's just they want you to get and overcome these things. They want you to see from a higher vantage. They don't want you to be in anger, bitterness, and resentment against others. But again, with karma coming through here, it's very hard to not. It's very hard to avoid things that are happening because they're going to be right in your face. They're going to be karmic. They're going to be. So, your best thing is to deal with that head on with whatever way you feel you need to deal, but you need to deal. You can't just run from everything because it's just going to come back stronger, harder, and faster. And then when you overcome and you deal with it with your self worth and in the right, true way, again, lying is is part of the process. Like if you're in a mode where you're trying to lie at this point, it's just you're beyond help. You really need to have some kind of sense of truth, and we're seeing it. And I know I'm seeing it in my environment. I got to take a minute here because we have the ostriches from Canada here in BC, and it's so saddening, so depressing, so infuriating. It's yeah, that's an emotional overload in itself. But at the same time, I think it's put there because it's obvious we've been infiltrated. It's obvious that this is the wrong side. So I think from the future here, we just pray for karma, and people will pay for what and how they deal with life, no matter this cycle of killing that happens every so often. It's never ever a good thing. It is rising to the surface to be seen, and now that it's seen, you got to pray for and now that it's seen really that the highest court is ruled in the favor of corruption, then now we know what we're dealing with, right? So it's now is the unhooking of all of that from the bottom up, and that will be a lot stronger felt and hopefully karmically dealt with. A lot of stuff like that, when you can't get through that, you send energy there, then there's something greater going on, and you also know that you got to give it up. You got to give it up to the higher powers who are dealing with this, because there's so much pain and anguish that you feel, and I can't imagine being like Katie, those on the earth that are dealing with that. It's just wrong, So I pray for them again, and I've done actually energy sessions and gone in and sent energy to those animals. And it's just sad that it had to come down to that, but and I also send strength to the family, and to send strength for them to find the connections they need to move forward in a productive way, because the energies that are of the negative, 26 is going to be a very profound year of taking action in order to find these people. It's not just finding them, it's the repercussions coming to be, meaning the judgment. I feel great high judgment, and that's something they can't. We can't. We can't accept what has happened. The roles are going to reverse next year, and they're not going to be able to accept things, and they may not have time to even think of a way to get out of it. But nonetheless, it's not about a reading or about whatnot, but I just want to say my heart goes out to everybody involved there, and it's just heart-wrenching. Now, as we go forward, again, the emotional purging has a lot to do with healing. Feel the feelings that you need to feel in order to get back to your grace and peace, and you will find that path of light along that way. You will move forward in the best possible way for the highest good of all involved. And if there is no good, it will be, above and beyond. We will rise above this. So I think that's all. It says, depending on your heart and abilities between you and your highest good, alignment will continue to grow. So if you are for the highest good of yourself and others, that means you have to look at yourself and how you affect the world today. If you have not shown any effort to grow or input energy that is of a warm and compassionate nature towards others, we don't have care and warmth for others, we don't have other people's highest good in mind, then you will be losing that which you have. And again, this will be going swift and fast. That's all I'm going to say about that. So as we move forward here, this is the end of this energy series. It just popped up all of a sudden. I have 8 videos, so we're ending on the 8th here, having to do with these are the things that can happen when you're going through an energy shift. And if you notice anything different, you want to add to it, feel free to add to it, because it'll help other people as they go through this. I have a feeling this is going to hit a few years down the road, maybe in popularity. I don't know whether people are actually understanding this process, because it can be very, foggy in the mind when you're going through all of this, because there's a fog phase and then there's a clearing phase. So it seems like a bipolar kind of thing where you're up, you're down. This is very much in the flow of that. But it does even out. The spikes don't go as high or as low. And you will find as well, you will notice a vast difference from where you came from dealing with emotions to where you are. And then you will continue to move forward in the future. By that, I mean, your lows won't be as low as you could get in the past. Suddenly, there's a floor there. You can't get to that basement. There's no door there. You go low, but it's just a sadness and you feel it differently. Your highs will be high. Your highs will be higher. Even if you're a depressive person, because I'm one of those people, there was just depression. That's it. There was no high. It was fake. It will no longer be fake. You will feel happiness from a different center of who you are. It will expand. It will create those energy waves in order for you to feel that more highly. And along with that comes the bottoms, keep moving up as well. We don't feel the lows as much as we did before. And we just tend to increase. But again, we got to get used to these highs so they don't feel so manic and whatever. We have to get used to these highs. And again, these highs are the clarity, the range of feeling. It just amplifies. So they will pull you in and out of these things depending on each individual is got their own team that works with them. And again, communicate. So many people say they don't believe in things, but yet sometimes they'll sit in silence and go, can you please, whatever. Pray for another or pray for themselves. And there's someone listening. I can't stress that enough. There's someone's listening and they're at the controls and they can do things. So I'll tell you a story from my past, not so recent. I had been told from my guides, I was getting messages outside of me, move, swift action, and you'd see things like, a commercial on the TV. I remember one time, I can't remember what it was for, dish detergent or Tide or something. And they were moving boxes and there was something in my soul and my gut that was saying, you're going to move. And I'm like, I got no reason to move here. I'm here. I've been here for 10, 12 years. Like, I'm not moving. And I kept saying that. I'm not moving. I'm very stubborn. I'm not moving. And over time, it was a period of about 3 months. Then they just went silent. And then guess what? Something happened. I had to move. And I was like, son of a what? And then I shook my head and I said, I should have known. But again, I didn't, I was out of phase with them. I wasn't trusting what I was getting because I was getting a lot of mixed up stuff in the meantime. I wasn't trusting my guides. I didn't know what my guides were and what the devil was coming at me. So this was in, you know, and again, then I moved. Then I moved. And then when you get these things, pay attention. Even if they say something you don't have a reason to take in, just log it in. Whether you journal at night and log it in, because you'll be amazed. You look back and you go, because I journal with audio, is because sometimes I don't have time to write, or I don't, whatever, I don't want to sit down. And so I go on the microphone and say, yeah, today I was a good mood day, or, a bad mood day, whatever. I'm just logging in. I had this kind of dream. It was about this person. Sometimes you log it in. One, when you repeat it vocally, it registers in your own psyche a little deeper. And two, is so that if something did happen in my dream and it became a reality, then boom, I can go back and there's proof that even if just for myself, because I don't go out and say, see, look what, it's more validation for me in trusting my own, team up there to help me out. That's really what it is to guide me along with them, and to bring, okay, yes, and to understand what kind of mood, what kind of state was I in when these things were happening. Because your own vibrational frequency, you got to be in charge of that. You got to learn to be on the level. You got to have a baseline. And if you get out of whack, then other things can come in and tell you to do things. But you have to use your discernment on one, are they telling me to do for my highest good, or are they telling me to do for someone else's highest good, or are they telling me to do for bad, period. You have to always keep that in mind. You never drop that, how do you say, fence line, right? You always keep that sucker 10 feet high. But you got to know what's what, and you got to know who you are. Am I able to do bad things and feel I can get away with it, or do I not? Do I have a conscience? Am I one of those people? And you have to look at the self and log the self. And if you cannot take a self guide, if you can't look upon the self and understand where you fit and how you react, and forgive yourself for errors you make in that way. But there's some people, they just think they're so right that they never self-analyze. They never analyze, because I'm always right. I don't know what, but they may not always be right, and they may not always be coming from the highest good of all involved. And that's another thing. If you're praying, make sure you don't exclude that phrase, for the highest good. I don't know if I learned that from David Wilcock, but that was something that it was like for, because sometimes you can put that upon yourself for the highest good, but is it for the highest good of all involved? That's a huge discrepancy. And that when I learned that phrase, that was a big thing for me as well. It was like, yeah, did I mention that? Because when you pray for the best outcome, but sometimes the best outcome isn't what you want to see or hear, right? But anyway, this is what I go through. I have seen and logged in what I go through. I continue to go through it, and you will as well. If not now, it will be in the near future. So this may help you understand if you go to the doctor and they say nothing's wrong with you. This may, you may look into these things like barometric pressure, and you may find correlations here. You may look into Schumann resonance, which again is very patchy. I'm finding every source I get that is live, it gets cut off. So that's not one. I know that that's a reference, but I think the powers, there's certain powers don't want that information out, don't want you having that information for whatever reason. So I think they keep cutting the feed, and I kind of don't trust any of the live stuff anymore, having to do with that kind of stuff. But barometric pressure, it's out there. It's, pretty, how would you say, in the background, that you can look up. They have it on all the weather reports and whatnot. Weather apps should carry that. So look into that and see if that correlates, if that helps you. It can help you at least understand where you don't feel like you're going crazy or you're being psychically attacked when you're not. It's just the weather, this kind of stuff. You need to understand that on a deeper level so you don't go off the rails. Okay? So this will be my last, like I said, not my last energy report forever and ever. Amen. But the last in this series of 8, they wanted me to kind of leave you with the patterns of energy that will happen in the future. I feel like these are going to start to hit everybody else in certain kind of ways. So there's the information. Hopefully you can do something with it. And if it helps you, like or subscribe even, or share it. Because you people that are taking my information and running, like give a little back, share it outward, share it with people so I can get, my numbers are plummeting, which makes me think I'm just got a bunch of vampires on my material. And if that's the case, well, that will diminish to a zero. But anyway, uh, yeah, not wanting to be negative here. So that is the gist of it. You have an energy low, you need to take your fluids and get your rest and flow through it. The energy return will bring you time and space distortions where you may literally be bumping into things. If you're not clumsy, you may become clumsy. But again, it's an exercising of a muscle that's opening up. You may notice your abilities starting to sharpen, your vision. You may have distortions or refinements in these areas. Your perception, your mind will change. You'll have epiphanies to be able to solve problems. Your clarity of mind will increase as well as a focus on your health if that's not already a commodity. And then incoming information from many channels in your surroundings, books, visuals in your physical space, audio, visual coming from media. Again, watch what you take in there. But your gut, come from your gut here and you know what's right and wrong, so go from there. Intuitive messages will increase as well. You may even get a vocal connection with your guides where you can speak and talk to them. Then you will have the emotional purging phase, which is the hardest phase, which if you do not get through properly, where you actually work to deal, feel, and heal from these, they will be a problem area here, because this is where we have the ability to stuff everything. And if we do that, they will work out as emotional breakdowns, eruptions in areas that we cannot predict. It will just cause chaos and problems to such a high degree that we just can't. It's going to bring consequences high and heavy. So we got to learn to purge these emotional centers. If we don't, it could be quite tragic what happens here, because there's just such a lack of foresight. When we block off this area, it gives us a lack of foresight where instead of increasing our psionic abilities, we're going to be draining them quickly. So that's a warning. Compassions for others and self will increase if you work on these emotional states, depending on your heart and your abilities, right? Between you and your highest good, alignment will continue to grow. So you will find these cycles. And how many are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 to like 6 is basically, you being let loose with these new abilities to compassion and whatnot, to live your life in a new way. And the more, like, again, warning, if you regress, now you learn, so mentally but you don't exhibit this after the fact you've been increased from this, things will get drained from you quickly. Where they take from is your physical body. Then they will take from your physical universe, things that you have. They will go and amplify from there, and then you will have, disease and things can set in quite heavily, and they can take you out quite quickly. And yeah, there's a frequency for that. So again, take care, guys. Have fun and be kind. I'm going to move now to the readings. Give me time. Give me time, because I'm going to be moving into the love readings on Rumble. So this last set here, I'm going to go back to Rumble. We'll do the love set here. What are we here? We're, the 8th. So give me till the end of the month to get those out, and then we'll be going from there and starting the whole process over. So we'll be going from love readings to spirituality, back to love, to spirituality, back to love, and then we'll go through there again. It didn't work out. I started a Facebook page. Nobody there's one person, not nobody. One person had the courage to come in and like the page, so I'm just going to pass on that because nobody's wanting reading. You know, if you don't add, or what do you call that, subscribe to the page, I'm not going to come in and do readings. So I was just putting my energy reports up there until, and I took a tally here. So I'm not going to invest my time in there because nobody invested their time to click the button. One person, sorry, gets credit for opening the door, but unfortunately nobody else went through. So again, might have a bunch of vampires on my page. Take care, guys. Have fun and be kind. No, they're not all vampires. I'm just saying, it's just a click of a button. But maybe, everybody's distracted at this time. There's a lot going on. So I gotta be mindful of that as well. So we will go back to the regularly scheduled program of going from love readings on Rumble to spirituality readings on YouTube and energy reports in between. So the energy report I put out on Rumble will be different from the energy report I put out on YouTube, and there will be no Facebook page. I opened the page up. I had one courageous person putting their energy in there, opening the door for the rest of them, but nobody come in, nobody wanted reading. So I will just leave it for now, and I will continue to throw my videos in there. For whatever reason, I was guided that way, but nobody's wanting it, so I'm just going to leave it alone for this season. So take care, guys. Have fun and be kind, and hold your compassion. Try to find your peace and grace through your life. This will help you as you move forward, and purge your emotions. Feel them, please, because this will help you as you move and grow. Take care. Have fun and be kind.